Hi, all. We are going live. Please make sure to keep all of your cameras on. If your cameras are not on, participants and viewers will not be able to see you. Thank you.
Ms. Foxworth, we're going to need you to put your name and your division in your box, please.
Have my name.
In response, mine has been named as Judge Tiffany Foxworth, 19th JC Division M.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me see.
Does it not read as such?
Yes, it does.
I guess.
Thank you.
There we go.
It is currently 6:03. We are live. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and we want to welcome you to the Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter and NAACP Judicial Forum for this 2020 year. We're so excited to have each of our candidates that are here to be able to give us some information. I want to say on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we are not allowed to endorse any candidate, but we will bring you the most recent information that is available. I want to let you know that in March of 1913, nearly 6 weeks after its founding, several Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated founders marched in the historic suffrage march under the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority banner as the sorority's first public act. Today, lower voter turnout statistics highlight the need to continue to identify ways to include opportunities for all citizens to exercise their vote. And over 100+ years later, we continue to be active in our public presence. I am Shai Joseph Franklin, the president of the Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Alumni Chapter, where we continue to get into and bring good trouble. Now, on behalf of our 300 members, we welcome you to the good trouble of encouraging voter registration and voter education. We also welcome you to the good trouble of combating voter suppression. We welcome you to the good trouble of being a voice for the Affordable Care Act and access to quality health care. We welcome you to political awareness and involvement. With that being said, I, along with our partner, the NAACP, with Dr. McCallahan at the head, be informed and know that we welcome you. At this time, I turn it over to Dr. McCallahan, if he's available, to bring greetings on behalf of the NAACP.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike McClanahan. I bring you greetings on behalf of the NAACP Louisiana State Conference, where I serve as the president, where I coordinate over 40 adult chapters and about 18 youth and college chapters throughout the great state of Louisiana. Since 1909, we have been fighting for freedom, justice, and equality for all men, especially for Black folk. And so I want to thank you all for coming around and being a part of the forum. I want people to know now, look, I always call them the Deltas because those are some working sisters. If you want to get something done, call a Delta, right? So thanks to the Delta Sigma Theta Baton Rouge Alumni Chapter for being a willing participant of providing goods and services for the greater mankind. And to the candidates, thank you all for offering yourself for public service, because surely you must know whenever you put yourself out as candidates for any cause, you actually put a bullseye on your back and your family's back. Thank you for willing to do it, to serve all mankind, for do justice and do good. Thank you from the Baton Rouge NAACP and from the state conference. Continue to fight. And while you're out there shaking hands, don't forget to mask up. No justice, no peace. Thank you all.
Greetings. This is just a little message for our panelists today. This discussion is being recorded and streamed to various social media platforms. To ensure the best possible streaming experience for our audience, we ask that each panelist please keep your video toggle on and your mic muted. Keep those videos on so we can see your beautiful faces. Please unmute your mic prior to responding or providing input on a topic, and return your mic to mute at the conclusion of your statement. In the event that you experience any technical difficulty during this forum, please disconnect from Zoom and rejoin us as soon as possible using the same link information used to join this meeting. At this time, we ask that everyone please mute yourself if you have not done so already, and we will begin. Thank you and have a great forum.
At this time, we will have Sarah Beckley to come on and introduce the moderators. And if she's not available at this time, I will introduce our moderators. Our moderators are two members of the Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter. We have Michelle McCaleb, who has moderated several events for us, and we have Dr. Ernice Singleton, who is the first Vice President of Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter. So with that being said, we will turn it over to our moderators to be able to bring you the questions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shai. We're so excited that all of you are here to join in this forum. We welcome everybody who's online and live streaming with us. We welcome our members, and we especially welcome all of our judicial candidates who took time out of your busy schedule to be part of this very important discussion. And we look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Tonight's rules for the forum are as follows. You'll have 1 minute opening and closing remarks and 2 minutes to answer each question. Now, we do have a timekeeper, Carla Henderson, who's very serious about her job, and she will be keeping time and giving you nonverbal cues as well as verbal cues of 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then the time is up. We ask that you adhere to our time requirements and to respect each other, and we look forward to a great conversation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have the pleasure of introducing our candidates who have joined us tonight. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us. They are First Circuit Court of Appeal, Melanie Newcomb Jones. Family Court, Section 3, Judge Hunter Green and Kathy Benoit. 19th Judicial Court, Deli Adabamaji. Hope I got that right. I'm not sure. I've been practicing. William Will Jordan. From Division G, Judge Richard Anderson. Christopher Dasu. I think they said no, I said that wrong. Nasu, like Nassau, Dassau. I'm gonna get that. There we go. From Division K, Quintelis K. Lawrence and Ebony Johnson Rose. From Division M, Judge Tiffany Foxworth and Judge Yvette Alexander.
Thank you. Now, each of you will have 1 minute opening remarks, and we'll start.
We lost her. I think we lost Michelle. Michelle,
can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Each of you will have 1 minute opening remarks, and we'll start with Melanie Newcomb Jones.
Hi, my name is Melanie Newcomb Jones, and as you know, I'm running for First Circuit Court of Appeal. Briefly, I decided to run for this position because I've been practicing law for almost 30 years. And when Judge Toni Higginbotham was retiring from the bench, she had been a family court judge for many years. And I'm a board certified family law specialist. And as you know, the First Circuit Court of Appeal takes in 16 parishes and takes in all kinds of cases, criminal, civil, family, etc. And with Judge Higginbotham leaving the bench, I felt it was very important that in that panel of judges that rules over those 16 parishes of appeals, that there be someone who has family court experience. I've been very active in the Bar Association. I raised 4 grown daughters here in Baton Rouge. I'm running as a Democrat in this election, and I have contributed many hours of community service in pro bono work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is family court judges, judicial candidates, Judge Hunter Green.
Judge Green, you need to unmute.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. My name is Hunter Green. I'm family court judge here in East Baton Rouge, Division D. I've been the family court judge for 6 years. I am currently chief judge of the family court. I'm married to my wife, Emily, for 29 years. We have 3 children. They're all in their 20s. They're all successful. I was a licensed CPA for 9 years. During that time when I was a lawyer, I've been a lawyer since 1994. I have practiced continuously, been eligible to practice that entire time. Now as a judge, I cannot practice any longer, but I do have the experience. I have legislative experience as well as judicial experience. I'm also a resident of East Baton Rouge since 1984. That's 1984, that's 36 years. I was self-employed. I went to Southern University for my law degree, graduated magna cum laude, graduated number 4 in my class, and I have an undergraduate degree from LSU in accounting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kathy Benoit.
Unmute, Ms. Benoit, please.
That on there. I was about to do that. Okay, I am Kathy Resnick Ragusa Benoit, and I have a lot of different last names because I've been through a few marriages and been through family court a few times, and actually am still in family court. I've lived in Baton Rouge over 40 years. Our specific section that is electing family court judge, I've been living in that section for over 20 years. You know, I went to high school here, growing up here, went to LSU, went to law school at Tulane, and took summer courses at LSU Law School here. I have a wealth of experience, not just at the family court level or at the district court level, but I've also written appeals for the federal circuits, for the Louisiana circuits. Research and writing is kind of my superpower, and for the DA's office, on and on and on. But you can check my website for more information about me, and I'm excited to run.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have our 19th Judicial District Court candidates. We're starting with Division D and Delhi Adibaji. How did I do?
Well, I'll give you 80 of 100. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. Yeah. Well, right now, my name is known as number 72 on your ballot. If you call me number 72, I won't be mad at you. At least until November 3rd, you can call me number 72. But my name is Dele Adebamiji. Of course, everybody wants to know where I'm originally from. I am from Nigeria, and I've been living in Baton Rouge community now in excess of 40 years. I have 5 children, one of them deceased in 2015, but I have 4 girls. One of them finished from Southern University. She's a teacher. The other one finished from LSU. She's a medical doctor. The other one finished from Louisiana Medical College, Louisiana University, Louisiana Tech. She's an industrial engineer in Dallas, Texas. And the 4th one just ran away to LSU. She says she's studying biochem. Well, that's good. I've been contributing to this community for over 40 years. Of course, I went to Southern University, my bachelor's, my master's, and my law degree. I didn't go to Southern University just for the law degree. I'm a Southern man to the bone. And in this community, I've represented children in juvenile court for free for almost 28 years. Those who are in juvenile court will know I've done that as a, as a community. So I think I've practiced law for over 28 years, federal court, state court, city court, family court, you name it, I've done it. I've written appeal, I've taken a writ all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I've decided to run because of the years of experience I have and the investment I've given to this community. I want to continue serving this community in the capacity of a judge for 19 Judicial District Court.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Will Jordan.
Thank you so much. And knowing that minute goes by quickly, I'm going to go right into it. Thank you for having me. My name is Will Jordan, candidate for District Court Judge, Division D as in dog. I'm the right choice for our community. And I'm the best choice for Division D. The reason why I'm actually running for this, I'm not just running based on my experiences. I have a wealth of experience. Yes, I've argued all the way up to the Louisiana Supreme Court successfully. I'm not just doing that based on the amount of trials that I've had. I've had so many trials and thousands of evidentiary hearings. I'm actually running on my leadership and what I actually bring back to this community. My wife and I, we have strong roots here in East Baton Rouge, in South Baton Rouge, and all the way up into Scotlandville area, all the way through into Baker. I have family strewn throughout. This community is my community. We work hard in putting organizations and different events on track to make sure that everyone is absolutely represented properly and appropriately. The Community Police Ambassador Program, the training program that I actually came up with, the Real Talk About the Law program that we actually launched in the oldest historically Black high school here in Louisiana at McKinley High, which we started back in 2015. We bring these programs here into Baton Rouge because, again, we're rooted here. And I look forward to the opportunity to be able to continue to do that as the next judge of at the 19 JDC Division D. Thank you very much.
It appears that we're having some technical difficulties. So next up, we will go to.
Thank you. We'll go to the Division G.
Division G, Judge Richard Anderson.
Let me unmute.
Christopher. We'll go to Christopher Dassau.
Yeah.
All right, good. I think Judge Anderson was just unmuting, but I'll go ahead. I'm Christopher Dassau. I'm a candidate for 19 Judicial District Court Division G. The Lord put this on my heart years ago when I first got to college. He showed me I'm going to be a judge. I was outside the dorm room speaking with my roommate and best friend at the time, and I told him that. He told me I'm going to have to run a campaign, and that he believed in me. I knew what I was told as far as what I should do and where I will be going. And my steps have been ordered from then until now to get out of college, to get into law school, pass the Louisiana bar exam on the first attempt, get great experience working in the 19th Judicial District Court as an intern and as a staff attorney, working at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal, and of course, continuing my service as a prosecutor. I'm the city prosecutor for Baker. I've been serving as a prosecutor for 8 years. I serve inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom in the communities. I have programs that help make communities better, to help to bridge this gap between our community and justice system. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Judge Richard Anderson available?
Yes, ma'am. I've been here the whole time. I was unmuting a while ago.
Okay.
All right. Ready to start?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. As you said, I'm Richard Anderson. I'm a judge in the 19th JDC Division G. I have been for 24 years almost. And during that time, I've handled the criminal docket. Prior to that, I was in private practice for 15 years with the general practice. In 1996, when I first ran, I promised to be fair to everyone. I promised to treat people with dignity and respect and to apply the law as written to everyone, to protect the public safety, to be tough on violent criminals while giving nonviolent defendants an opportunity to rehabilitate, to protect the public or to protect the victim's rights, and to be accessible to attorneys, and to serve with honesty and integrity. And after 24 years, that's not just a promise, that's my record.
Thank you so much. We'll go to the candidates in Division K. We will start with Quintillis Lawrence.
Good evening. Thank you, ladies, for having this forum. I really appreciate it, and I'm very happy to be here. My name is Quintillis Lawrence. I'm number 76 on your ballot, and I'm asking for support and your vote on November 3rd or October 16th through the 27th, which is early voting. I have been a prosecutor. I've been a defense attorney here in Baton Rouge at the Public Defender's Office. I served there for 7 years. I also served as the commissioner on the 19th JDC, which is a judge's position appointed by the judges of the 19th JDC. And now I'm seeking to be elected. I bring to the table my experience in the courtroom, working at all 3 points of the triangle is how I describe it, as a judicial officer, as a prosecutor, and as a defense attorney, as well as my experience in the United States Army Reserve, where I've served as a JAG officer for the past 16 years, advising generals, colonels, lieutenant colonels, and the like, trying court martials in the military, Navy courtrooms and Army courtrooms, and my leadership abilities. Because on that court at the 19th JDC, it requires leadership as well as the knowledge that I possess.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Ebony Johnson Rose. Ebony Johnson Rose.
Thank you, ladies of Baton Rouge Sigma, for having us on tonight. Again, my name is Ebony Johnson Rose. I am a candidate for the 19th Judicial District Court, Division K. This seat is currently being held by the Honorable Bonnie Jackson. She is retiring this year. My family and many of you know both my dad and my uncle, Judge Johnson. Don Johnson has been serving as judge for the past 20 years.
We can't hear you, Ebony. We've lost Ebony.
Because of who they know. And so I want to correct that. A judge should be fair, and a judge should be a judge of all people. And so I'm asking for your support. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I have 2 young sons and 2 daughters. And so I'm well aware of what it takes to run courtroom. I've had much experience over the last 16 years. I've worked for McGlinchey Stafford as an associate attorney, trying cases all the way to the Louisiana Supreme Court. And I've also worked for 4 state agencies defending the state of Louisiana. So I have much trial experience, but I have the temperament and I have the compassion. And I hope to be elected on November the 3rd to serve the residents of East Baton Rouge Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ebony. Next up, we'll have the candidates for Division M. We'll start with Judge Tiffany Foxworth.
Good evening, ladies. I'd like to thank you for hosting this forum and the invitation. I am Judge Tiffany Foxworth, number 81 on your ballot, and I'm seeking re-election on November 3rd. I was actually recently elected to this position on August the 15th of this year, and I am proud and humbled to serve the citizens of this parish. I am a graduate of Southern University Law Center and Southern University School of Nursing. And while a law student full-time, I actually worked at a hospital commuting 2 hours round trip on a daily basis, taking care of the sick and the elderly as a registered nurse. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army, having served 13 years. I enlisted as an E1 and discharged as a Captain 03. As far as my experience is concerned, before being elected, I worked in a private capacity whereby I have worked in, have represented people in family court, criminal court, and also in civil matters on all levels from Baton Rouge City Court all the way up to the Supreme Court. I have extensive experience in criminal practice ADC.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next up is Judge Yvette Alexander.
Hello, my name is Judge Yvette Alexander. My ballot number is 80. Thank you to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporating for holding this forum. I am the Chief Judge on Baton Rouge City Court. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience. I will celebrate my 25th judicial anniversary on October 25th. I'm very proud and humbled that the citizens of Baton Rouge have elected me to this position for 25 years. I started my career in the Public Defender's Office in the 19th Judicial District Court. I went from there to the Secretary of State's office, to the Attorney General's office, had a private practice for 17 years before I was elected judge. I believe that experience is what you need on the bench. I also believe that in order to be fair, seek justice, and do the things that judges are supposed to do when they're on the bench, you need to have experience to be able to do that. I'm happy to say that I'm the mother of 2 daughters, both Deltas. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Yvette Alexander, and I'll turn it over to Ernice.
Thank you all for giving those opening statements. That was very insightful. At this time, we will go through a series of questions. The question that will be asked, we will ask each of you to answer that question, and I will be gladly repeat it as needed. The first question is, do you believe that judges have an obligation to improve the public understanding of the courts? If so, how should that obligation be carried out? I'll repeat that one more time. Do you believe that judges have an obligation to improve the public understanding of the courts? If so, how should that obligation be carried out? We are going to start with Family Court, Section 3, with Judge Hunter Green.
Okay, thank you. So your question is, do you believe that judges have an obligation to improve the understanding? Yes, absolutely. In my court, a lot of times when people are going through custody matters, or whether it be divorce, custody, child support, partition of property, domestic violence, that's something that a lot of time the attorney, the litigants are asking the judge, me, instead of their attorney. And a lot of times the attorneys are telling their clients, no, don't ask that question. But that's part of what I do in my practice every day in my court. Is you have to be patient with people. They don't understand the process. And that's part of what the qualities that I believe I have, that I demonstrate every day in court, whether it be child support, domestic violence, custody, whether it be a hearing on use of a home or a vehicle or other property. There are a lot of things that go on in family court, a lot of things. And it takes a lot of people, they have the emotional side of it. And then you have all these other factors over here. They're having to deal with custody and their attorney. And it's a lot to take in. I've never been divorced, but I can imagine that it is very difficult. And that's part of what a judge has to do. They have to be knowledgeable about the law. They have to be fair to the people that are in their courtroom, and they have to be patient.
30 seconds.
And that's part of what I do. And you also have to decide cases based on the law and the facts before you. And sometimes people, they don't hear what goes on or what they say in court. And you have to remind them to calm down, especially when you have children testifying, which is something that's allowed in family court, small children sometimes. And so I, as a judge, I have to make that witness be comfortable. So yes, I do believe that we have an obligation to do that.
Thank you. Next up, Kathy Benoit.
Hey, thank you. I also believe that the judges do have an obligation to inform the community, and that's kind of why I'm running, because family court usually doesn't get a lot of press. But family court judges are almost the only people who can inform the community of what's going on in the courts. And a lot of times there are organizations like domestic violence groups and things of that nature that the court does work very closely with, who can also spread the word in situations like, for example, I was in court and I still have a case in court, and I'm sitting there before the whole COVID thing next to a lady who's cowering in the corner because it's domestic violence day and there's no place to separate the the accusers from the victims, and so she's afraid that she's going to have a confrontation, which like opens up liability to everybody in that hallway who's there if somebody gets out of hand and there's like one little police officer there. So I mean, there's a lot of issues that people just don't realize unless you have to go to family court that are going on, but it's so important because it affects our entire community. If you don't, there's a lot of divorces in court, and if they affect children, and if these children and these families and these cases aren't taken care of correctly, then the children aren't performing well at school. The parents are losing their jobs, if they're dropping out of school, if they're then basically having children out of wedlock, and then they can't work, and then you've got more social services that need to be involved. If they have a good experience in family court, or at least not a bad experience in family court, that could help. And I've just heard from too many people that they never want to practice in family court because it's just awful, and it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't be scared to practice in family court. And I've heard from too many people who had divorces and cases in family court, and they have not had a good experience. I really haven't heard a good experience yet. And I want them to. They should. There's no reason why they can't.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the 19th Judicial Court, District D, Delhi. I'm not going to do the last name this time because I might butcher it. So let's go with Delhi. Do I need to repeat the question for you again?
No, I got the question.
Okay.
Without repeating the question, what I want people to understand is that experience is the best teacher. You can never substitute for experience, never. It doesn't matter how much theoretical knowledge you have, how much book knowledge you have. Experience is what you have to depend on. Mind you, I've practiced in all aspects of this. I've done bankruptcy, I've done civil rights cases, I've done civil cases, I've done juvenile cases. I've done it all over the area. So you must understand what you want the public to understand. If you don't understand it, how are you going to teach it to the public? You can't. You must have knowledge, experience, and ability to let the public knows that this is what goes on in court. For example, 19 JDC is a court of unlimited jurisdiction. I can go there. If you put me on the civil bench, hey, I'm good to go. If you put me on the criminal bench, I've done that for 28 years. I'm good to go. So for me, the ability to make the people understand what's going on in the courtroom is extremely important. I've done that 28 years. I've explained to mothers who say, why are they sentencing my child to 3 or 4 years or 4 years jail time? I've explained to other mothers who say, please, can my child be rehabilitated instead of sending him to jail? I've had to explain to people when we have civil trials the reason why I believe the judge ruled one way or the other. I've had the opportunity to talk to clients in family court, why the custody case didn't go the way they expected to go, or why the child support was not bigger than what they expected. But you must know these things. You must have practiced them. Just the matter that you read them in book alone is not enough. You must have the knowledge to be able to educate the public. I think it's very, very important that your client knows what's going on and knows what the law is and know how you're applying the law. So the issue that is it our responsibility? Is it necessary for us to educate the public? Yes, I believe it is. But what I believe in is that if you don't know what you're saying, you will miseducate the public. So it's very important that we have the experience and knowledge of what we're educating the public.
Thank you so much. William Jordan.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. So to answer that question, I got to give you a little bit of my background. Absolutely. I believe that the judges have an obligation to actually improve the public understanding of the courts. In my background, I actually come from a background as a server, right? I worked my way up from a busboy to a waiter, and then eventually I was the maitre d'. I was the head of the restaurant. And I understood in that position that I actually work for the people, right? It may seem like I'm in a position of somewhat authority, right? As I'm the guy up here that's actually saying, you get this table, you get that table, you get this table. But at the end of the day, I serve those individuals that actually come in, and it's them that actually are the ones that are providing me the opportunity to be able to have this job, right? So now let's take that and let's look at what it is to be a judge. And what does that actually mean? This is an elected position, right? So as you are there to serve the people, to actually be that fair administrator of justice, that person that's supposed to actually say, when they have a situation and they want to know why isn't this fair, why isn't that fair, you have to be able to explain the rulings in such a way that the people understand. When we talk about communication, when we talk about getting through to individuals, I've mastered these skills, right? And what I also rely on when we want to talk about experience and actually doing them, I actually look at, well, what have I done lately, right? What have you done for me lately? When I started the Community Police Ambassador Training Program, and I actually brought in the Know Your Rights seminar, when I actually brought in individuals from across the country talking about bias, when I'm actually bringing in all of this different information so that people can actually know the nuts and bolts of the justice system from start to finish. I've done these things. So when we talk about fully explaining and making sure that people understand, I've been there and done that, and I would love to have the opportunity to continue to do it on that next level.
Thank you so much. Just as a reminder, the questions are in the chat if you have not seen them. And so we're going to move on with the same question to Division G, Judge Richard Anderson.
All right. Yes, I believe judges absolutely have a responsibility to help with the public with their understanding. I think we ought to put on our 19th JDC website something that explains the roles of all the participants, because a lot of people don't realize that judges don't decide what to charge somebody with. That's the DA. DAs don't decide guilt or innocence. They just present their case. We need to do that. But besides that, we need to conduct all of our hearings and everything we do as open as possible, from the proceedings themselves to our rulings. We should explain them and tell the basis for it, the law and the evidence, and why we ruled the way we did. And also participating in events through schools and other organizations, like community organizations. Sometimes as judges, we get invited to go talk to them, and I've talked everything from Boy Scouts to Sunday school classes, and even a few other clubs. But you know, don't pass up on those opportunities. If you can make them, go to them.
Thank you so much, Judge Anderson. Christopher Dassau, I think I got it right this time.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, we do have an obligation to educate the public on our court system. And I think even as our educate them on our justice system as a whole. And that's what I've done. I've been doing that my whole career, even starting back in law school. In law school, I chose to become a fellow of the Marshall Brennan Constitutional Literacy Project, where I went into a local high school, Bel Air High School, and taught civics, taught students about their constitutional rights and their responsibilities as a responsible citizen. We prepared them for moot court competitions, and it was very, very rewarding. I did that for 1 year, and I continued to serve and go back and teach these students a similar course as a volunteer, as an attorney, since I've been an attorney, and prepared them for mock trial competitions. As again, I'm the city prosecutor for Baker. As a prosecutor, I have had this responsibility as well. Most of the time I deal with people who are represented by attorneys. Sometimes they're not represented by attorneys. But either way, I always make sure that the attorney or either the person who's representing themselves without an attorney understands the decisions that I have made and that I make, and make sure we understand the reasons for that, the background reasons for that, and so that everybody goes away knowing the reasons why the decisions have been made or why we're doing what we're doing. Also, I have community programs to help educate the public. I've founded a conference for men, boys, and women who love them. That's a conference where we bring men in, bring women with men and boys in their life, and we discuss the issues, legal issues that we get into, and give them information to help them, to prevent them from coming in, so we don't have to serve them in the courtroom. If we serve them in the community and get them information in the community, we won't have to serve them so much in the courtroom. And I also have a domestic violence educational program as well that I've been doing for years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Division K, we will start with Quintelis Lawrence. Don't forget to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely believe that it is an obligation to improve the public understanding of the courts. I have been a member of the United States Army Reserve for 29 years. And in the past 16 as a JAG officer, I have been called upon to give briefings on issues that affect the Army as a whole, to not only the Army members, but their family members. Because we have this program called Yellow Ribbon, wherein the family members, when the soldier is about to deploy, family members are given some information on the benefits that they have, the benefits that their loved one has, and what's going to go on when they get over there that doesn't violate national security. So I have been called on for the past 16 years as a JAG officer to give those briefings. In addition to teaching at Southern University Law Center, evidence, criminal procedure, and torts, I think it's inevitable that a judge is going to be a teacher. When you're sitting there and you're telling people what's going on as it relates to their case, sometimes they don't understand exactly what's going on. They are the public. The people who come in there to view the trials in the open public settings, they are the public. And so they get an opportunity to understand exactly what it is that was at issue, why the ruling came down the way it came down, and what's the basis for the ruling. And that somebody said that it's not as important to have the book knowledge or the knowledge of the law. I think that is of the ultimate importance, because our court system is a system of laws. That's what we do. We take the law and we apply it to the facts that have been given to us, not the facts that we wish we had, not the facts that somebody said they might be, the facts that are given. And we apply that. We teach our students, that's how you get an outcome. Law as applied to facts determines outcome. There are processes that go on with the court system. There are areas in which the threshold is lower, and somewhere where the threshold is higher for the judge or the trier of fact to be able to say, this is what you must prove in order to get a favorable outcome or to win for all intents and purposes. And so the public needs to understand what that threshold is. Sometimes they feel that the threshold of probable cause is the only threshold that there is. And that's what they'll tell you. They say, he didn't have probable cause. She didn't have probable cause. Well, we need to advise the court, the public.
Thank you. Ebony Johnson-Rowe.
Yes, thank you for the question, and absolutely. But it shouldn't just be when we're in the courtroom as to educating the populace on how court functions, the roles of everyone in court. It actually starts outside. And so over the course of my legal career, I've joined with the National Bar Association with the Know Your Rights campaign. We've gone to local high schools. The region that I sit in for the National Bars is Region 5. And with Region 5, I've gone over throughout the state of Louisiana, going to multiple high schools, because I think our young people need to be especially educated on what their rights are, what the court system is and is not. I also speak at churches in my area because a lot of people have questions. They just don't really understand different types of procedure. What I've seen most in our community is successions. You know, a lot of people don't know how to judicially open a succession or even what that means. People just think that mom died, so, we'll get the house. But no, I think it is necessarily incumbent upon us to educate everyone that we come in contact with, not just the people that are in our courtrooms. Of course, in the courtroom, you have the opportunity to address the litigants and the attorneys. But when we are operating outside, we need to have engagement with the public. And whether that is in a church setting or a school setting, we need to make ourselves available in all of these public arenas. And so if I'm elected, I will continue to reach out to organizations. I will continue to go to churches and schools to educate our people on not only the criminal justice system, but the civil side as well as the family side. And I just think that is so, so important. And I'm glad for the question tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Judge Tiffany Foxworth. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
To whom much is given, much is required. And I would like to say that I feel that God has blessed me with this assignment so that I can be a blessing to others. It's incumbent upon us as judges to ensure that justice is served in all capacities throughout the judicial system. I presently preside over a criminal court. The mass majority of the people, the defendants that come through the court, are of minority descent. They look just like me. The average level of education is about 9th grade. So as judges, it's our duty and our obligation to ensure that people who come in to court, especially those who have been disenfranchised, understand the procedures that take place in court. The mass majority of the defendants that come into my court right now are represented by the Office of Public Defender. Oftentimes, they have not even met with their legal counsel until the day that they are present in court. I give them the opportunity to speak and consult with them in court, even if that warrants me to stay over, because my duty and my obligation is to that of the community. In addition to that, I forged a relationship with the East Baton Rouge Parish Reform Coalition, whereby it gives them the opportunity to reach out to our office to ensure that the defendants who are in parish prison get access to medical services and that they get fair treatment even while incarcerated. In addition to that, for those who have been affected by COVID, I permit them to participate with court via Zoom, because it's our duty, our obligation, and our responsibility to ensure that all of their needs are met.
Time. Thank you so much. Judge Alexander?
Not only do I think that it's an obligation for us to improve public understanding of the courts, I also believe that it's our duty to do that. The way that I've done that for the last 25 years, there are many programs in Baton Rouge City Court which we have started, but one of them is Be a Visitor, Not a Violator, in which we teach children about our court system. If you start teaching them young, then when they get older, they will understand it better. Yes, it's an ever-changing court system, but they will be able to understand it. I belong to many different organizations where we're outside of the courtroom. We go and we try to encourage people not only to understand the judicial system, but to avoid the criminal side of it. I am happy to say that as president-elect of the American Judges Association, we go to a different school in every place that we visit to talk to the kids about that. And not only are the kids present, but their parents are also present. So during this obligation or this duty to improve the court system includes people understanding the court system. The problem with the court system, two things: people don't understand it, it costs too much. So in doing those two things, how we help to make it a better court system is we give them education on it. So we have seminars on it. We have come to our court to learn about it. And we also go to the law schools, to the high schools, to the junior high schools, and into our community, to the churches, the organizations, and the other groups that have to deal with the court system.
15 seconds.
I'm proud to say that Be a Visitor, Not a Violator is a great program, and we have seen much success from that.
Thank you so much. Melanie Newcomb Jones. Remember to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, at the Court of Appeal, you honestly don't have a lot of contact with the public. It's mainly attorneys. But I do believe that judges have a very important role in teaching the public about the procedures and about the law. And I believe that judges have an obligation to be involved in community activities. You know, even not as a judge, but as an attorney, I've been involved in teen court, the moot court program in high schools. There's Law Day. There's all these programs that bring in young people and teach them how the judicial system works so that they understand, how these things take place. I mean, I guess there's a lot of TV on, but I think it's important that judges go back and teach particularly young people about how these things work. And I don't think that happens as much at the appellate court level where I'm going, but throughout my practice, I've always been very active in, Law Day, moot court, teen court, and doing things to try to educate young people. And I do think that that's an obligation of judges to educate the public. And I think starting young is the way to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for answering that question. Very insightful information. Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you all. As many of you know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Baton Rouge has one of the highest number of domestic violence cases nationally, and with COVID, it has gotten even worse. What would you do to ensure that all victims of violence receive the protection and services they need of domestic violence? And I will start with the 19 judicial court candidates with Delhi.
Well, from my years of practicing both in the family court and in the civil court, relative to domestic violence, I've seen that it's not a good issue and it's not a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to behold. And normally, what I can do as a judge is to issue the order and make sure that the order is followed up. Now, about the victim of the domestic violence, there's not too much the judge can do in that issue, more than to make the order. But for me, I think I would like to get involved in activities that protect whoever is the victim of a domestic violence, either the male or the female, because it goes both ways. And one thing we can do is also to make sure that we educate people on the danger of domestic violence and the kind of repercussions that follows a domestic violence. Domestic violence is never a good thing for either the accused or the victim of the domestic violence. Everybody suffers. So for me, what I will personally do, apart from being a judge, is to see how much focus we can put on education, rehabilitation, and counseling. Because domestic violence is not something anyone can say is good to behold. But basically, I think the judge doesn't have too much power beyond making an order. And I think what other thing I can do is that I want to enforce my order. If I say no violation of the domestic violation and you violate it, I will make sure you stay in jail. So that's what I would do in those kind of situations.
Thank you. Next up is Will Jordan.
So thank you. To really answer this question, I got to tell you this. Look, this domestic violence, this is an issue that I hold kind of dear as far as the subject that we're dealing with and how it affects our people and how it affects people in general. A few years ago, I had the pleasure to actually create the Domestic Violence in the Workplace Forum. I did that when I held the position of president of the National Black Prosecutors Association. And in that capacity, what we opened it up to is we opened it up to all of the different corporations. So Verizon, the big banks, et cetera, right? And one of the things that we actually focused on was looking at what are some of the warning signs to be able to spot early DV, right? It's not just the situation that you may see on a television show where you have the stereotypical folks that, okay, these are the actual victims of domestic violence, right? It actually goes beyond that. It's in our boardrooms, it's in our offices, it's in our classrooms, our teachers, right? These are the actual victims of domestic violence. And when you look at the actual statistics, you understand that it's not just as simple as saying, leave him or leave her, right? Sometimes it's multiple times that a woman or the abused tries to leave the abuser before they're actually successful in making that break, right? So when you actually understand what those warning signs are and those patterns of looking at it, how they isolate, how they belittle, how they actually destroy and take that victim away from their family, it's not that easy. I say all of that to say this, that as a judge, being aware of all of the issues that come along with it, right? When you're able to spot the issues and you're able to know what programs and what services are out there to be able to help. We're talking about Iris, we're talking about Butterfly Society, we're talking about those like them, right? And you know where you can actually channel those resources so you can get people help. I think a judge can do a lot. And when I am elected, I will make sure that I'm doing my part. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Judge Richard Anderson.
All right. Yeah, this is a very serious problem. It's also a very tough problem to fix. As a matter of fact, it's more of a person problem than a court problem. And courts can't fix the problem of domestic violence. Sometimes we can give people time to fix it themselves and steer them to the right resources. For example, the domestic violence offenders program, the battered women shelters, that kind of thing, to get counseling for both sides. But like I say, this is a problem that the people need to work through, either individually or separately. But some people, like I say, courts can't fix. When we do deal with it, we should consider all of the relevant information concerning bonds to protect the victims. But we also have to make sure we don't make the problem worse. And when we do put a defendant on probation, we need to strictly comply with that probation, or they do, and we need to enforce it, because some of them think, yeah, big deal, I've got probation, I'm not going to go do the class, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to stay away, and we should enforce that. The other thing we need to do when we do issue protective orders, we need to explain it to the person who is the subject of the protective order, not just the defendant, and also the victim, and make sure they understand what they can and can't do so they don't have any future problems. But the main thing is separate them a little while, let them get their self straight. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Michelle is frozen, so we will go to Mr. Dassau.
Yes, thank you. Domestic abuse, domestic violence is a real concern in our communities, and also a concern of mine. We can do things to address this issue.
Thank you. Christopher Dassau.
Okay. All right. I was saying this is a concern, and there are things that we can do.
Am I frozen? Okay.
Yes. All right. So part of what I've been doing over the last several years as a prosecutor serving in the criminal justice system, I've developed a domestic abuse symposium. Okay, and this is an educational program where we bring people in that are educated about this issue. Sometimes doctors, counselors, people that have access to resources, and we educate the public on this, because education is a big part of it. Sometimes people just need to know more information about a subject. So we discuss, how to prevent in-home tensions to escalating from abuse, how to prevent that. If someone's in an abusive situation, what are the resources available for them? Who should they contact? What are the legal avenues that are available in our court system that they can pursue? What are the support systems available for them? Things like that. So that's very important, that people who are in that situation know where to go, what they can do. As a judge, the judge will have an obligation to decide on a bond for someone who's arrested on domestic abuse, domestic violence. And a judge will have the responsibility to carefully consider the bond, not only based on just the charge itself, but looking at some of the history of the person. I see it, the person's criminal history, the person's, whether this is a repeat offender, things like that. We have to consider not only the charges against the defendant, but also consider the victim at home, where we don't have a situation where, we want to make sure that we are considering that victim, and we know that. Thank you, I see it. We want to make sure that we're considering that victim as well when we're setting those bonds. So I believe we need to be very careful with that as well. Thank you.
We're going to go with Quintelis Lawrence, Division K.
Yes, ma'am. So the question is relating to the services and the protection that victims need who are victims of domestic abuse violence. First of all, I think we need to do something outside of the box, beyond specialty courts. We need to go and we need to allow for individuals like the STAR, the Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response Organization, who serve as what I would like to call Special Victims Counsel, which is a mirror to what the Department of Defense does. They have special victims counsels who are the lawyers for the victim. They make appearances in court on behalf of the victim, because sometimes what the prosecutor wants to submit in court, wants to do in court, is maybe not exactly what the victim wants. And yes, the prosecutor is trying to protect the victims from the offender and put the offender in a position where he or she can't hurt the victim anymore. But sometimes the victim wants something different, not necessarily to go back to the abuser, but just something different, something that's presented different. So I would empower the Sexual Trauma Awareness Response Organization and individuals like them, similar to the Special Victims Counsel. There is case law that allows for those Special Victims Counsels to appear in court. It's a court case out of the Department of Defense, LRM versus Kastenberg, which the court said that you can have a Special Victims Counsel appear in court as a non-party to argue the position of the victim. So I think that when you give the victims a voice of their own in court, you give them the ability to say, this is what I want. This is how I want things to go. This is what I deserve. And then having their own lawyer arguing that to the court, it would speak volumes to how they feel about how the system treated them.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson Rose?
Yes. So thank you all for the question, and I'm glad that we are addressing this issue. It's so very timely, especially with the recent uptick in domestic abuse cases that we've seen throughout our parish and our state. Right now, Louisiana does have the highest incidence of domestic abuse cases. And one of the reasons why I'm running for judge is because I do believe that we need to have a domestic violence court. Right now, we have domestic violence that's heard in our family court, and the judges rotate throughout the week on hearing domestic violence cases. But then we also have domestic cases that are heard in the criminal court. And so if we can combine these resources into one court, there's actually a model that's been put forth in the state of Pennsylvania. And I think if we model that where we are actually treating people, because that's what this involves. People abuse other people because of stuff that they've suffered in their own lives, things that they've seen their parents do. And so they have the pressures of not knowing how to have appropriate conflict resolution. So if we had a program put in place where we are treating the abusers as well as providing the resources that the victims need. And who's lost in all of this is our children, because oftentimes children are growing up in homes and they see their parents being abused. And so they also need to be included in the conversation. We need to have a program where these children also receive counseling. I think that is a very important part of this, because oftentimes what we see is they're either going to become an abuser or they're going to become a victim. So that's what I'm running on. And I do hope that if I'm elected, that we can get this program.
Thank you. Is Joel Porter on? I heard that he had joined us, Division K. Can you hear me?
This is tech support. He is trying to log in right now.
Yeah, he's having some difficulties. We're trying to get him logged in.
Okay, we'll move on. Let me know when he's available. Again, we'll go to Judge Tiffany Foxworth.
First and foremost, if I'm going to speak from the criminal law aspect of it, since I do preside over a criminal court, I make it a point not to rubber stamp matters as they come in. As soon as a person is arrested, if I am to set a bond, I read each one of the affidavits of probable cause. As a judge, there are certain mechanisms that we can put in place, which are conditions of bond release. Thus far, I have implemented, we can have people come in before we actually set a bond to see them and assess their likelihood or the probability that they will go out and actually commit another violent act against a victim. Through our Gwen's hearings, once we make a determination, we can set a bond accordingly to ensure public safety. We can order pre-trial monitoring supervision, whereby the person has to wear an ankle bracelet or adhere to shadow monitoring. We can set daily curfews, order that they participate in domestic violence offender programs, and also even institute protective orders without the victim actually coming into court to make that request. Because as we know, there are a lot of people, especially those who have fallen victims to domestic violence, where they often, enable their abusers to a sense, because to them, they lack, especially if they lack resources, they don't see life outside of the hands of their abusers. I feel that it's imperative that we educate those victims also, to let them know about the resources that are available to them, especially when we have women with children, to enable them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Judge Tiffany Foxworth, and now Judge Yvette Alexander.
The question was, how will you ensure that our victims of violence receive the protection and services they need? As judges, we have to walk a line to make sure that our bias will not be questioned by the acts that we do on the bench. So in order to do that, we look at both the defendant and the other person involved in the domestic abuse as victims. The defendants are victims because they have been charged with a criminal charge, and so their life changes. And the victims, or the traditional victims, would be the ones who the violence has been done against. So the way that you do that is you look at the underlying conditions or the underlying reasons for it. We have court services that enable us to allow them to talk to the victims. There's a victims advocate in the court. When we're doing those kind of things, they can tell them about the protection They can tell them about the services. One of the things that I have put into place in Baton Rouge City Court is that the victim's name and address is no longer on the police report. So if the victim has had to go to a different place, then it can be easily found through the public record. We also make sure that injunctions are put in place to protect the victims from the perpetrator. And in that instance, when we do that, we also make sure that if they're living together, the perpetrator can go and get all of his belongings so that he does not have a reason to go back there. The underlying causes are the main things that we must look to. What caused this to happen? What caused the perpetrator to do what they did? And what causes the victim to continually accept this kind of behavior? You need professionals that are professionals in this to do that.
Thank you, Judge Yvette Alexander. Next up is Melanie Newcomb Jones.
Well, once again, this particular issue probably isn't something that is actually taken up on the Court of Appeal very frequently. But I will say that listening to the other judges speak about the importance of judges looking at all of the aspects of domestic violence is so important, because there's so many facets of things that are going on in those dynamics. And I think that recognizing that it's not just something that you're making a ruling on this, or you're dismissing things that someone comes in and says they want to dismiss it without making sure that they truly understand what they're doing. And I know in family court, where I practice mainly, that there's a very specific form that if a person comes in and they want to dismiss their protective order, it's 3 pages that they have to read and then acknowledge before the court, because there's so many people who are victims of domestic violence who the court can't know that they really understand what they're doing by dismissing it, that they don't understand, the court needs to know that there's not being pressure put on them to do so. And I think that family court is actually doing a pretty good job of not just dismissing things without having the victim come in and actually, acknowledge and understand what they're doing. But anyway, that's not something that really goes to the Court of Appeal, but I'm very happy to hear all of the judges understand the gravity of that issue. And it sounds like there's been a lot of thought on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is Judge Hunter Green.
Thank you for the question. I've listened to the other judges and the other candidates. What I will say is tomorrow in my court is a domestic violence docket. I have it every other Wednesday, as all the judges in the family court do. When I took this position 6 years ago when I was elected, I was shocked at the number of domestic violence cases that came in my court. And it's quite honestly, it's very disheartening when you have folks come into court and the allegations that are there. But what the family court can do is, on our computer, we have digitized, everything is computerized. The petition comes directly to our computer, and we issue temporary restraining orders every day immediately. That's without anybody coming to court and being in front of the court. That is through the clerk's office. They have wonderful staff that help the petitioners. They aren't necessarily victims at that point until there's a determination, but those petitions are read over by the judges. And as I look at them every day, we look through them and we go through and sign the relief granted. Sometimes it's custody, sometimes it's use of a house, use of a vehicle. It's to keep the person away from work. It's to keep the person from contacting in any way or seeing any of the children. So it gives you immediate relief. And we do that day in and day out in the family court. The TROs go immediately to the protective order registry. Now that's only for a certain amount of time. And that's what Judge Alexander said, is balancing the rights of the defendant. You only get a certain amount of time for a TRO, then you have to come to court and you have to prove that by a preponderance of the evidence. Iris Domestic Violence Center is there to represent the petitioners for free. I think we need to do more, but the more needs to be probably in the realm of the legislative area other than the judges. The judges can give you the protection per the law and direct you to the services that are there. And I've been doing that day in and day out for 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Green. Kathy Benoit?
Thank you. I was actually touching a little bit on it during the last answer to my question. And I'm already looking at that. If you look at my Facebook page or my Instagram, I'm always posting things on there. I loved hearing what the other judges said. There are programs for children who are victims. But what I'm a little bit concerned about is what I was hearing this past March, right before all the COVID stuff happened. Family court was basically kind of investigated by the advocate. And there were 2 articles that came out. And yes, domestic violence victims can have free representation, but because family court wasn't basically performing correctly according to the grant, they were in jeopardy of losing the grant. And I do believe that Judge Green was the chief judge at the time. I thought Judge Day was actually the chief judge now, but I may be mistaken, but I know back then he was. And so that was kind of under his watch. Working and coordinating with the services that we have. There are services in Baton Rouge. There are amazing services, but I did see that you don't know about them. You don't know about them. They're not on the website. You don't get a pamphlet. You don't get anything. And I was a little disappointed when our new court building was there because there's no room for like childcare. There's no room for a safe room for victims. Some of these things were kind of missed. And then when victims come back after they do their initial allegation, a lot of these cases were getting dismissed because they had work, couldn't find childcare, they couldn't come back to court. So, and thank you. So we need to think out of the box. Maybe we could have extended hours 1 day a week so that the people whose hours of work don't fit through the 9 to 5 can show up. Maybe we can find some way to coordinate with a domestic violence group like Iris or Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy to kind of provide childcare for men and women who need that so they can show back up and show the court, yes, they have evidence. This is a real case, and just don't dismiss it because they didn't show up, because that's what was happening. And the Louisiana legislature even had to get involved. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our questions, and we'll go now to closing remarks, and I'll hand it over to Ernice.
Thank you, Michelle. We will do our closing remarks. Earlier, we said 1 minute, but we are running short on time. So we want to honor the time that we told you for this forum. So we will limit our closing remarks to 30 seconds. And we will have a few other comments from our leaders of this particular effort. So we are going to start with Division G, Judge Richard Anderson.
Yes, 30 seconds isn't much. All I've got to say is 24 years ago, I made promises, and a bunch of those promises touched on the very issues we talked about tonight: the public safety, the being fair to everyone, both sides of the litigation or charges. And I've done that. Look at my website. You can see I've kept my promises, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dassau.
Good evening. All right, I'm Christopher Dassau. I'm a candidate for 19 JDC Division G. I'll be number 79 on your ballot. I'm the candidate that will continue to protect the public, as I've been doing as a prosecutor, but also go beyond that. And my courtroom will be more than just crime and punishment, but it will also be a place to make people better. Anybody in the northern part of the parish, I'll be on your ballot early voting. I'll be number 79. That's through October 16th through the 27th, Election Day, November 3rd. Vote for Christopher Dassau. You'll have a judge that delivers fairness and justice you can depend on, and you'll be proud of your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Division K, Quintellis Lawrence.
Yes, thank you, ladies. This is Quintellis Lawrence again, number 76 on your ballot, the choice for Division K. I've spent the entirety of my adult life serving the people. I joined the Army at 17 years old. I've been serving for 29 years, achieving the rank of E7 and then achieving the rank of O4 as a major. I have practiced, I have administered, I have helped to make the law, I have taught the law, I have done everything within the law that there is a need for, and I have done it expeditiously and successfully. And then October 16th, when early voting starts, I ask you to go out and cast your vote for number 76 for a vote for Quintillis Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Ms. Johnson-Rose.
Hello, and thank you all for having me on tonight. Again, Ebony Johnson-Rose. I'm running for the 19th Judicial District Court, Division K. I am number 75 on your ballot. What I am bringing to the table is a temperament, because judges need to have the right temperament. I'm bringing fairness. I'm going to be a judge for all people, regardless of your background, your economic status. I am committed to being transparent. I'm committed to having court to make sure that our matters are heard in a timely and an expeditious manner. And so I'm asking you all for your prayers, your support, and your vote. Early voting does start on this Friday. So thank you all.
Thank you so much. Division M, Judge Tiffany Foxworth.
I am Judge Tiffany Foxworth, ballot number 81, seeking re-election to the 19th Judicial District Court. I'm a judge who promotes rehabilitation, compassion, public protection. I believe that it's incumbent upon us as public servants to actually get out in the community and serve the community. It would be my honor to continue to serve the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish. And moving forward with this election, I ask for your continued prayers, your support, and your vote. And God bless you all.
Thank you. Judge Yvette Alexander.
Hi, I'm Judge Yvette Alexander. My ballot number is 80. I believe that being a judge is as much about fairness, equal justice, and compassion as it is about knowing and understanding the law. Experience gives me the wisdom to know the difference. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Early voting is October 16th through the 27th. Please cast your vote early because you don't want to miss this election. Thank you for your trust for the last 25 years in Baton Rouge City Court, and I will not let you down when I'm elected to the 19th Judicial District Court. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie Newcomb-Jones, First Circuit Court of Appeal.
Thank you so much for having me to this forum tonight. I really appreciate it. I know it's very brief. I would just ask that if you are looking at the candidates, I am by far the most qualified candidate. I've practiced law longer than the other my other opponents. I have extensive trial and appellate experience from trial court, family court, juvenile court, 19th JDC, First Circuit, Supreme Court, and I've practiced in 12 of the 16 parishes that actually encompass First Circuit Court of Appeal. And I would ask that you look at my website, jonesforjudge.com, and I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Family Court, Judge Hunter Green.
Thank you, Delta Sigma Theta. You have done a great job of doing this. I appreciate your time to take to do this. I'm the only candidate that has the judicial experience, the legislative experience, and also the legal experience. I've been licensed the continuous time since 1994. I've practiced that entire time. I have the temperament, I have the patience, I have the knowledge, and I want to be your judge for the next 6 years. I would appreciate your vote for Hunter Green for Family Court. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kathy Benoit.
Okay, I think I'm on. Yes, I want to just reiterate all the thank yous that Hunter said. I wouldn't be running for judge if there wasn't a reason. I've always wanted to be a judge, but I'm not. I'm not. Is it a backward? Is that better? I'm not Got it? Or no? Okay. I'm not asking for a vote. I'm asking for informed voters. And I just really ask that when someone talks about their experience, make sure it's the right experience. You know, do your research, talk to the candidates, look at their websites, make sure that you know. I mean, my kids know, and I've raised a blended family of 7 children, which is the only time I kind of took off practicing law, was to kind of raise them. So, you know, that's a big job. But talk to us. Talk to us. Get your information. Become informed. Thank you very much.
Division D, Delhi.
Thank you all very much for hosting this this meeting. As I've said earlier, for the time being, from now on through November 3rd, you can refer to me as number 72. My name is Dele Adebamiji, and I've reiterated all day long about my experience practicing in juvenile court, family court, bankruptcy court, the civil court, federal court, state court, and city court. That's part of the experience I will bring to the table. And I have commitment, integrity, and I will handle my courtroom as a grown-up man. As a grown-up man, you should be able to make decisions without any favor. From now on, from early voting to November 3rd, I will ask you to go and cast your vote for me. You know, I've worked in legal services, and I've also did a whole lot of pro bono cases, and I understand the law and the application of it also. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. Mr. Will Jordan.
Yes, ladies, thank you very much. Mike, thank you for coming on with us as well. Thank you for having us. The right choice, our community, and the best choice for Division D. Will Jordan, number 74 on your ballot. I'm asking for your vote. Go to my website with only 30 seconds. Go to my website, jordanforjudge.com, JORDEN. We've got the Facebook page. We've got the Instagram page. Integrity, reputation, ethics. Look me up and you will find that these are things that I hold in very high regard and high esteem. I'm very, very proud of my reputation. I'm very, very proud of my integrity and the work ethic that I have. And I look forward to being your next judge in Division D again. Will Jordan, number 74 on your ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you again to all of you all for what you all have provided us this evening. And we are going to have some closing remarks from our leaders of our social action. Sheila Lewis.
Yeah.
Good evening. I am Sheila Lewis, Chair of Social Action Committee for Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in our Judicial Candidates Forum. I'm particularly grateful to Dr. McClanahan with the NAACP for joining forces with us to sponsor this forum. I also want to thank our viewers for recognizing that through candidates forums, they are able to obtain the information they need to make an intelligent decision about the best candidate. I ask our viewers to plan to vote early. Early voting begins Friday, October 16th and runs through Tuesday, October 27th. Remember, as an informed voter, you have the power to decide on the quality of life you want for yourself and generations to come. One thing we know, elections are decided by the people who go out and vote. So don't just vote, be a voter. Your vote is your voice. I turn it over now to Attorney Tracy Wood.
Good evening, everyone. This has really been a good evening, and I echo Dr. Lewis's comments. My name is Tracy Woods. I'm the co-chair of the Political Awareness Committee for Delta Sigma Theta Baton Rouge Sigma Chapter. Since you made all of, thank you, I'm just going to leave the candidates as well as the audience with one quote that I found today that I thought would be very helpful for us to think about as we move forward toward election. This is a quote from John Lewis. It says this: "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day. It is not a struggle of a week. It is not a struggle of a month, or it's not a struggle of a year. It is a lifetime struggle. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and to get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And I'd like to say, let's make some noise and get in some good trouble and cast your vote on November 3rd. And thank you again for participating.
Shy Joseph Franklin, our president, will close us out.
Actually, we'll have words from Mr. McClanahan, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I want to again thank the Delta Sigma Theta Baton Rouge Alumni Chapter for partnering with the NAACP, but I also want to thank its members for being hard workers. But this candidate forum could not have went off as well as it done without the candidates that are running for judge. And we want to thank you all for considering the NAACP and the Deltas for being a part of this wonderful, wonderful forum. You know, when I end all my calls as the state president, I normally say fired up and all the members holler, ready to work. I want you all to stay fired up. And at the end, I say, let's go to work. Stay fired up and let's go to work. I wish you all good luck and let's continue to fight for the right to vote. Souls to the polls, souls to the polls.
All right, Mr. McClanahan, thank you so much for that partnership with the NAACP. And I want to echo his sentiments exactly with saying thank you to each of you for participating in this community event this evening. I would be remiss if I would not stop and say thank you to our members and to the leaders of the committees that have put this particular event together. So for that, I say thank you to Dr. Lewis, thank you to Attorney Tracy Woods, thank you to all of our technology team that's behind the scenes, and thank you to the members and to the audience that have taken the time to make sure that you have taken notes and done everything that's possible to make sure that your vote is an informed vote. In addition, I want to inform you of a couple of activities that Baton Rouge Sigma has coming up. On tomorrow, as we had this judicial forum, tomorrow we will be having a mayoral forum. We have 5 candidates that have confirmed and possibly more in the morning. So please tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m., same time, same place, and make sure that you hear from the candidates who are vying to be our next mayor. In addition, please know that we have another forum on next week that will be a partnership with Southern University's Law Center. It is titled Protect Your Vote. So we have a panelist of speakers, some wonderful speakers to be able to give information. It's a 2-day virtual event, October 21st and 22nd. Please look for the flyers for that information. I also want to say thank you to our moderators for this evening, Michelle McCaleb and Dr. Ernice Singleton. Thank you so much for making sure that the questions were asked and answered. And to our timekeeper, Carla Henderson, thank you for that. And we hope that we did not offend anyone, but make sure that your time was respected. So with that, we look forward to continuing to make good trouble as we go out and continue to inform our public. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Shy, before we close out, I do want to, we would be remiss if we did not thank Karen Ambu, Muriel Haysberg, and Jackie Watts for their diligence in trying to coordinate all of this with the candidates and getting their emails and getting all the correspondence to you.
Thank
So
you,
I want to make sure.
Woods. Yes, that's the subcommittee that continued to put all of this together and who you heard from. So thank you to those members, and we do appreciate all of the work that has been done to get to this point. Thank you, and again, have a good evening.